One, two, three, the lawn feed.
Welcome back to another episode of the Lawn Feed Podcast. I'm your host, Vince with Brew Lawn Co. And with me is two straggly gentlemen, Chris Opitz Moat Time and Andrew the Dad Bod Lawn. Welcome, fellas.
Cheers.
Did I say straggling? I meant strapping. What's happening, guys?
Pretty sure you just called us homeless is what you just did.
And then I
often feel
recovered.
that way. I showered before this episode, so we got that going.
Speaking of homeless, some of our lawns are looking pretty rough right now. And this topic today is going to be all about seeding your lawn, what to do, when to do it, timing, how to do it. We're going to dive into all of it. But before we do that, while Chris cracks a beer, Chris, do you have some folks you want to thank?
I think we all do. We want to thank our friends over at Twin City Seed for powering this episode and season of the Lawn Feed Podcast. Twin City Seed offers elite quality and custom blends of grass seed to homeowners like ourselves, turf professionals like the other guys who do it better than we do, and many more. Home of the all-new Resilience 2, which you know way too much about, Blue Resilience and Fielder's Choice. I think we all have those in some capacity in our yards, but they do have more, especially Blue Shadow and an all-new Rodeo Texas Hybrid Bluegrass Blend. Go get that or go check it out. Shipping to all 50 states. Check them out at twincityseed.com. And as always, check the banner at the top of their webpage for current specials and offers, along with codes for free shipping on your next seeding project, which is one hell of a transition because it's right around the corner.
Yeah.
You know, you just mentioned Blue Shadow. Guys, if you're listening, go take a look at that. It's a very unique blend. I'm hoping to maybe try some of that this year. But it's for very dense shade lawns. So it's a fine fescue and a Kentucky bluegrass. But the Kentucky bluegrass cultivars in it are primo, like awesome rock stars. So if you have a heavily shaded lawn, go check this blend out and send us your pics of that lawn because I'm curious to see how it performs.
They got a whole bunch of stuff, and by the time this episode airs and you're listening to it on the airwaves, they got everything in stock. So go check them out. Get what you need.
Do it.
Speaking of throwing shade, my kids have been throwing some zingers at me lately. I have a feeling you guys might have some dad's wins and losses that we should share. So let's get that cooking.
A lawn feed tradition where we tap into who we are at heart. Dads! This is Dad's Wins and Losses, where we tap into our inner dad bod father figures and highlight some of the recent wins we've experienced as parents, and of course, vent about the embarrassing losses we take each and every day as dads.
I love Dad.
Vinny. I feel like we haven't heard from you in a while. I'm sure those twins have been giving you a heck of a run. And that new boy. So what do you got?
The twins haven't been too bad, but they are part of the L for this one. Start with a dad W. My son, he is going to be 10 months old here soon.
Already?
And yeah,
Jeez.
already.
He was just born.
And we've been taking him outside and, holding him and stuff. And then, the grass is still dormant. It's still cold. And I'd put his feet down in the grass and he'd just cry. And I was like, uh-oh.
He's allergic.
This isn't good. And anytime we took him outside, I'd put him down. Just start crying. But then eventually, as the grass starts greening up, it's getting a little warmer out. He now loves to be in the grass. So that is a huge W. And we escaped a potential loss there if he didn't like to be laying in the grass because, who doesn't love doing that? And then an L. So my wife and I, we've been looking for, trying to move for several years now, and just the market's insane. So we decided just to go driving around, just drive around, see what's out there, see the areas that we like. And part of the areas that we do like are, winding hills and stuff like that. My girls tend to get car sick frequently. So we're driving through these windy roads and we're looking at different properties, and all of a sudden so I have twin girls. One of them was like, "Oh, my throat hurts. My throat hurts." And the whole car ride, she's like, "Oh, I gotta poop. Like, you're fine. We'll be home soon." And then she's like, "My throat hurts." And they kind of say that when they get upset because they just want attention. And then all of a sudden she's like, "I'm gonna throw up." And my wife just like grabs his. We have like a bucket in the van already, like prepped the bag in it. She just like flings it over, gets it, and I mean, as soon as that bag gets to her, it just out. I'm just like,
Did you catch most of it?
No. What's that?
Did she get most of it?
Yeah. Thankfully, she did. It still got on her shirt a little bit and in her hair, but so then we have to quick pull over, and we're like in this parking lot of some business as we're stripping her down and getting her changed and cleaned up and vomit everywhere. And I'm just like, yep, time to go.
Hashtag parenting.
Yeah. So car sickness is not fun, and unfortunately we deal with it quite a bit. So that's my L for the night.
It's kind of a mom win though. That's a badass like this response. Like, you go, girl.
Yeah. And she cleaned it all up. So
that's good, because if you're anything like me, you don't do well with puke.
I didn't realize that this maybe was like not a common thing. Did you guys have a puke bucket when you were growing up?
Oh yeah.
That
Mine was
also
like
served as like your popcorn bucket and everything else you ate out of?
Not that far. We used like the 2.5 gallon bucket that ice cream came in.
2.5 gallon.
Yeah, like you get the economy size,
no joke
the economy size ice cream, and like it's like a throwaway thing. It's just like you throw it in the recycling end of day. Like, we always had one around. That was the puke bucket.
The puke
we use
bucket.
like at the hospital they have like these bath basins that you get, like patients get and stuff with all their belongings, and like that's what they use to wash up. And we got a couple of those hanging around from when we had the girls, so we use those, or we have like random things that we just stuff a plastic bag in. And of course, like no grocery store bag does not have a hole in it.
No,
they all have holes in it. So like she did throw up and it went in the bag, great, but then it started leaking through, and it's like the bucket that we chose to use was a cloth toy bin. And yeah, so
generally speaking, a cloth toy bin for the car puke bucket is not a great idea.
Yeah.
But now you know.
But now we know.
Now you know.
So
I mean, it's great because it's small, but
yeah,
when the bag has a hole in it,
it's like the reusable diaper.
One, yeah.
Oh.
My current one that we have, it was like an emergency thing at one point. One of the kids was going to vomit in the living room, and the nearest thing that we had was like a mixing bowl, like one of our everyday mixing bowls. We had like 3 different sizes, like the medium-sized one. It turned into our puke bucket, and now
those are bad though, because a kid hit the wrong angle and just go. Whoosh.
Yeah. No, we haven't had any issues with it. I think it's big enough that we haven't had that problem. But now it just stays on our bedroom floor next to our bed, because the kids come into your room in the middle of the night, because they always come to you first instead of going to the bathroom. You know, I don't feel good. It's like, here, hold on to this.
Speaking of vomiting, we should talk about grass seed.
That's a great transition.
And seeding and seeding lawns and doing all of the things in the spring, and whether or not that's going to be a good idea or a piss poor decision for yourself, and kind of walk you through that and all of the things that have to go with it. So that was an elite transition, by the way. I just needed to be documented in history of the Lawn Feed podcast. That was probably the best one we've ever done. Sure. Vomit to grass seed. Find a better one. Seeding in the spring. Yeah.
When should you do it?
And
Is there like a rule of thumb of like what temperature should you be looking for to be able to start putting down grass seed?
I'm talking about pre-emergent time, essentially, right? 50 to 55 degrees with some caveats.
Can we like backtrack for just a second and just call out, like, I mentioned this on our last episode. Andrew, you and I were talking about this. But since then, I have opened up my smartphone and I have opened up the TikTok, and there are a lot of TikTok creators out there, and that have nothing to do with lawn care. All they are TikTok shop creators. That's all they do. Literally all they do.
So many of them lately.
This, pardon my French, the shit that they are spewing out, if it gets me irritated out of all of the people in the like lawn sphere, that's a problem. Because like I'm a very relatively neutral dude. But then like if I'm recognizing people that are like spewing out just complete BS, like the BS monitor is going off, like you suck at selling your stuff. It's insane. Like, they know enough to be dangerous, and I'm sure they're making great money and doing all of that stuff, but my God.
The one that got me it was sent in the group chat. It was about this will kill your weeds after they germinate, and it was barricade diamine, and I'm just like, good Lord, it's not a post-emergent, guys. Like, it's great. Maybe you make some good money selling this stuff, but people are not using it right.
I got into
results.
I got into a comment argument with someone with an IQ of 12, and it was in response to a video over in Michigan, Andrew, who decided to go lay down. I can't even remember the name. It was a Scott's green, whatever, 27-0 something. Just all of it. Lawn looks green. No shit, because if you put fertilizer down, your lawn's going to look green. Like, mind blowing. But where's the rest of the bag? Because it's not in your lawn. It's not like that's gone. That's right in your waterways. It's great. Like, soil temperatures. Andrew, you sent me a picture 2 days ago, and your lawn had snow in it.
I was outside picking up dog poop today, and if it was in a shaded area of my lawn, it was crunchy. The ground was like frozen. Like, the grass was still frozen. Like, the ground is so hard that it felt like the tundra.
Yeah.
Nobody has any business putting down anything on their lawn for
it's
weeks.
Unreal. Anywho, and like the stupidity on social media is just unreal. And whatever. Moving on. I just had to get that out. Like,
you feel better now, Chris?
I feel great. But it's just like the thing. Maybe we should start a segment that's
venting with Chris.
Things that grind Ope's gears. And then it's just the shit I've been meaning to say for the past 2 weeks, and it's just word vomit. Speaking of vomit, we should talk about grass seed.
We should.
That was the second best transition in the history of the Lawn Feed podcast. So when should we seed? Vince, great question. I'm so glad you asked. Let's try to tell you. You mentioned the pre-emergent. So there's a couple things we need to talk about with pre-emergent. If you haven't listened to our last episode on spring, your lawn checklist, go check that out between Andrew and I. We dove into like the complete lawn checklist, but specifically with pre-emergent and seed, what do we have to worry about?
Well, if you put down pre-emergent, you can't seed because it's going to do the same thing to your grass seed as it will to weed seeds. It'll try to germinate, but it'll be halted really quickly before it can pop through the soil. You're going to be wasting a lot of money on high-quality seed because that's what you're using, not junk, right? You get what you pay for when it comes to grass seeds. So pre-emergent times at 50 to 55 degrees, and kind of in the spring, like I feel like the last couple of springs that we've had, especially up north for you and myself, Chris, Minnesota and Michigan, it goes from like 40s, 50s to 70, 80, like in a matter of weeks. And so earlier the better, getting this stuff down, but you have to be careful because if you put down grass seed and it germinates and you get a frost, like that could kill this new grass that you just tried to germinate and grow. And so that's why spring is dicey. The timing's hard. Damned if you do, damned if you don't sometimes, but odds are you're gonna have to touch it up in the fall because it is spring. And that's just the realization of it. And
there's just a lot more risks. Can you do it? Yes, but there's a ton more risks.
Really have to look at the long-term forecast. Really keep an eye on that.
Yeah, a couple things on that, right? And we'll touch on a lot of this as we go into like grass selection and all of the things. But not all grass seed and not all, I guess, grass types and the seed in which you put down on your lawn will germinate at the same time. And I think that like that seems to be a very common misconception amongst homeowners just starting out. It's every bag of grass seed will germinate at the same time and everything is kind of the same for this, that, or the other thing. And that's just not the case. Grass seed germinates at different times. Some will germinate quick, some will germinate in a longer time period, and grass selection and the type of grass and the type of grass seed that you select is going to be really, really important. But in order to do that and find the right one, we kind of need to figure out what grass is going to be best for your environment, right?
It'd be awesome if there was a free guide for that.
Oh man, we should publish a guide that answered that question exactly and then just give it away for free. Wouldn't that be a good idea?
Groundbreaking.
I'm on the lawn feed right now, and we do.
TheLawnFeed.com.
Do we?
We do.
Do we?
Under
let's
the
go.
guides section.
Hey, let's go back. Wouldn't it be great if we published a guide for free about what grass would be best for people and just give it away?
Yeah.
That'd be great. But what if we gave it away for free?
That would be cool.
And what if we had one that was all about spring lawn care that's also for free, which is perfect timing?
Huh. And where would people find that?
Like maybe on a website?
Yeah, like
hypothetically.
if we had a website, we'd probably call it thelawnfeed.com. That's probably where we would have it under the guide section. I would imagine we'd have a guide section.
That's a good spot. It's a good spot.
We
Great.
should
So
probably
what
further
if
that.
we created a guide all about grass seed? Everything that the DIY new homeowner or expert needs to know to plant grass seed in their lawn, how to do it, what type's best for them, and we put it on our website for free.
Gosh, sounds like a great idea.
If you guys haven't picked up what we're putting down, we have a free guide on our website for free, all about grass, all about what's best for you. So go check that out.
And a spring guide.
And more specifically, it'll give you the answers to the test of what grass is best for you, your local environment. That also pairs with your lifestyle. So if you want a low maintenance lawn, it'll tell you the low maintenance options based upon if you have full sun, partial shade, clay soil, sandy soil, the whole shebang. And then our combined personal recommendations on what grass seed is going to be best for your particular local environment.
You know, I had a guy at work recently ask me this exact question: what grass should I plant? Da, 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 da. And I gave him the Spark Notes, and I said, hey, we have a free guide on our website. I said, go download it. It will give you a lot more information than I could give you right now and that you'll remember. He's like, well, why would I do that when I have you I see every day? I go, because you won't go home and remember this. Like, you can put this in front of you. It's cut, clear, and dry, and you can make your best decision. And then you can come talk to me about it. Like, well, I'll help you dial it in, but like, go. Like,
it is a big decision. I mean, that's depending on what you're buying. Just from a cost standpoint alone, you're spending a couple $100 or sometimes thousands of dollars on grass seed. And unlike a lot of the big box stores, you're getting 100% pure grass seed. Where you go to the big box store, you're going to be getting filler and fertilizers and whatnot, and low quality grass seed, low on the end tips, and just you're going to repeat this common mistake we see all the time. And it's I go to the big box store, I just grab a bag of K31, buy a bag of grass seed, and
guys and gals,
throw it down. And what are you doing in the fall? Well, it didn't take. So now I got to do it in the fall. And then you just spend hundreds of dollars every spring and fall. Get the best grass seed that's best for you and get a high quality grass seed. And it's going to save you so much money in the long run.
So we're here in spring. First off, great points. But we're here in spring, and spring just has more risks to it. So if you're in a cool season zone, firstly, go check out and pair your location with the grass zone, because there's going to inevitably be some people in like Texas and like Florida that are going to listen to this and follow us that think that they can do this. And you got to pair your location with your right zone and the right advice. And the biggest thing that I can tell you, Spark Notes edition, is you've got the cool season zone in the northern states, you have the warm season zone in the southern states, and you have a transition zone in the middle. The transition zone is probably the most confusing because that's where both cool season grasses and warm season grasses can thrive depending on their local environment and climate and all of that fun stuff. However, the timing in which, depending on you choosing cool season grasses or warm season grasses, the timing and advice that you follow is vastly different. The growth cycles in a cool season grass has a growth surge in spring, as kind of everybody does. But then when it gets really hot in the middle of summer, our season kind of slows down a little bit. Our grasses tend to go into dormancy a little bit, and then we have a fall surge again because temperatures drop, and that's what our cool season grass is like. Whereas in the warm season zone, it's going to be more like a bell curve where they come out of kind of spring, just like cool season grasses do, but they thrive in that hot summer heat, and that's where those grasses are going to really perform their best. in the right environments, right? And then they cool down in the summer, and then we're all dormant in the winter, and all of our browns are long, and we go into seasonal depression mode, and here we are. That said, follow what is going to be best for your area, and just know that answer. And I think for cool season grasses specifically, when you're talking about grass seeds in the spring, the biggest risk that you're going to have is not only the unpredictability of weather and washouts and severe weather sporadically happening and the unpredictability with that, but if you get through all of that, and if you plant your grass after the risk of first frost, or the last frost, excuse me, then you have all of your new grass babies preparing for litem duty right before the most stressful time of their life in the summer heat, which is not the best scenario. So can you get through that? Yes, you absolutely can. Will everything make it out of there alive? Probably not. And like Andrew said earlier, you just need to set yourself up with proper expectations that you're going to need to give yourself probably through the fall in order to do that. Fall is best, followed by spring. You just have to know kind of what's going to happen. It's one giant learning experience, seeding in the spring.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's a necessity. Sometimes you have to do it. Sometimes you need to do it. They're meant for kind of smaller projects, but full renovation, should probably wait until the fall.
I'm not.
So speaking of actually seeding, what
Andrew's throwing her down.
yeah, he is.
Andrew's ignoring all of our advice and saying, screw it.
I'm
Well,
setting
sometimes you
expectations.
just gotta go with it.
Setting expectations.
Yeah.
But when we get into that, say you are going to be getting into what Andrew's going to be doing, and you are doing some seeding, soil preparation is the best time to be doing different amendments, checking your pH, seeing what you're doing a soil test, seeing what micro macro nutrients you have in there, any deficiencies or surpluses. This is a great time to be changing that, trying to change that, adding different amendments in there. If you have a super compacted area in your lawn, prior to any seeding, there is a process, and it can basically be in a couple different steps. So before you're seeding, you're going to want to scalp the lawn. So that's bringing your height of cut down basically as low as you can go without getting those blades into the dirt. After you do that, you're going to do some dethatching. You can rent those at any hardware store, or buy one of the Ryobi ones, or something on Amazon. Do some dethatching, get all that junk up, and then you're going to want to make sure you get all of that out of there, so you're bagging it up. After that is completed, then you can take a tiller to it. You can aerate it super heavy. This is a great time to be leveling. This is a great time to be adding lime or whatnot to it, some compost, get some organic matter in there, and this is all just getting you set for that seed to be laid.
Hey, real quick before we head on to the next topic, that was amazing, by the way, Vince. I want to head back to the seeding section just real quick, because I don't think we really talked about germination times for actual cool season grasses with perennial rye and tall fescue and Kentucky blue. In springtime, Kentucky bluegrass is a real liability just because of its germination timing is anywhere from like 14 to 28 days versus a perennial ryegrass, which is like could be 4 to 7 days. Tall fescue 7 to 10ish. So consider what grass you're putting down. Obviously, timing is important. Earlier, the better. But Kentucky bluegrass for the spring, I'm avoiding it myself just because it's a higher risk thing to do.
And the time frame that you just said, Andrew, that's in optimal growing conditions.
Exactly.
Which is not going to be the case in spring.
Yeah.
Optimal growing conditions is when the hot seasonal temps in the summer are coming down, late summer, early fall. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And that's when it's optimal. When you got rising temps, trying to warm the earth out of winter sometimes it doesn't like to come up as quickly as possible, and we all know what that's like.
Yep. But now that you chose your seed, you know how to prep the soil.
No one got that.
How do you get how do you get the seed into the soil that you just prep so nicely? Most people have a broadcast spreader, just like you spread your fertilizer with. That's going to work great. Full disclosure, it will throw seed further distance than you actually realize because your eyes can't really see it. It will go into your flower beds, it'll go into your garden beds, whatever. So I have a drop spreader, cheap drop spreader that I found. It's great for a few passes around the perimeter of your property. And then you can take the broadcast spreader in the center and go to town. But it just kind of gives you that buffer zone. So you're not growing grass in your flower beds like I'm known for at my house. My wife will tell you all about it. I know Vince is a huge fan of the old slit seeder.
Big slit seeder guy.
Yeah. I won't talk about that college nickname. But slit seeders, they're designed to actually like drop seed in the soil right after it like digs in and causes these gashes with the slit seeder. And I think, Vince, you like to run that thing backwards, you said, and just to prep the soil, right? You're a backward slit seeder guy. Is that right?
Yeah, it has more penetration that way.
Yeah.
Can really break up the ground more.
What if it's moist soil and you run the slit seeder backwards to penetrate it? What happens then?
How moist it is.
What did you do to get it so moist? Did you overwater? Did you water too long?
You could have left your sprinklers on. It could have rained the night before.
Yeah. Good points.
So
that's how you can get seed into the soil. And then if you're just overseeding, if you're fixing bare spots, you can sprinkle it in by hand. You got those dog pea spots like I deal with every spring, every fall. I give it the old Salt Bay right on in there. So that's the way to get the seed down. The old slit seeder is
seed to soil contact's really important.
Yeah.
And I think it's a lot of we talked about the prep and we joked about it, but the prep work will be like it sucks, guys. Like it's work. It's a lot of work. But you're in it for the journey, and you're in it. If you got this far on this episode, you're wanting to learn how to do this, and you're going along on the journey and trying to figure this whole thing out along with all of us. And like anything in life, the success happens from the prep work put into it. So when it's showtime and it's game time, everything will happen based upon the work that you've done up until that point. And it's no different with this. You gotta prep the area, especially if you've never done this before. You just moved into a new place and you have absolutely no idea what happened before you moved in. You got to prep everything. Seed to soil contact is the name of the game here. And if you don't do the prep work, you risk the seed not touching the soil. Like, this is elementary and as literal as I can get. You risk the seed not even touching the soil. You just threw money away at that point, right? You might as well have not bought the seed and done it. So overseeding is, as simple as it sounds, it's literally putting seed over an existing lawn to thicken it up and have an overall healthier, more aesthetically pleasing lawn. But there's a lot of things that need to go right in order for that seed to get down to the soil level, and the prep work is there.
It's biblical.
Biblical.
Wow.
Yeah,
that says a lot.
Take it way back.
No,
Gotta plant it in the good dirt. She ain't gonna germinate.
Now, I know you're not a huge fan of peat moss, Vince, but do you find any benefit of using peat moss in the spring versus the fall? Or do you just hate it all the time?
I just hate it all the time.
Okay, fair.
So a lot of people are saying to use peat moss. So why do you hate it, Vince?
So I don't like peat moss. One, it's just a mess to use.
That is fair.
It doesn't break down.
Sure.
So say you're doing a full renovation, go ahead and do your full renovation. You did all this prep work. You got the soil all tilled up, all nice, and you put down your seed. Then you put down your peat moss, water it in. You have great grass coming in. Okay, now let's fast forward next year, and you're like, all right, I want to sand level. So then you sand level, or you put down dirt. You're going to start to create these layers, and one thing that sand does, one thing that some of the compost does, and the dirt is it mixes with the existing soil. Where what I found was, especially if you go heavy on your peat moss application, you're going to create these layers, and it becomes layers of really high organic matter. So as you continue to overseed or plant new grass or just over time, those roots are going to get down into that and have a really hard time passing through that organic matter and getting nutrients through that. I found that to be a really big issue in my front lawn. I accidentally dumped my wheelbarrow over on the old side, and I thought I picked it up a good bit. And to this day, I still have issues in that area. I actually rented a sod cutter and removed that whole area. And you could see, I have a video on it. You can see the different, it looks like a 5-layer bean dip. Like there's just layers. It's wild.
I'm hungry. Don't do that to me.
So that's why I don't like using peat moss. If you're going to, I don't like it, especially if you know you're down the road, you're going to do some leveling. And then some other things with peat moss is you got to keep it super wet. So a lot of people say, oh, it's great because it holds in moisture. Well, it takes a lot of moisture in the beginning to even get the peat moss wet to keep the moisture for your seed.
Yeah, you got to preload
and
it.
Then it can also dry out really quickly in the sun. Same thing with organic, like compost. If you're doing compost, it'll dry out really quick in the sun. So the watering requirements might be a little bit higher. I personally could throw down seed on dirt and have good seed to soil contact, put nothing else on top of it, and have great germination every single time.
And that's something I'm going to be doing here with my renovation that I'm doing. Like I discussed in the last episode, I'm going to start my real mowing venture. So it's going to be a total kill off, perennial ryegrass, leveling, try to get as smooth as possible. But peat moss also has a ton of sticks and all this bark and stuff in it. And if that gets in there, that's going to cause an issue. Once you start real mowing, and you have all this stuff in your lawn too. So you need to make sure that gets sifted out really good as well with peat moss. So.
Great points. I think from that perspective, so the seed's laid, seed to soil contact, ready to kind of go. The controversial topic of fertilizer at the time of seeding or after, whenever you decide to do it. We've all done it different ways. We've openly talked about this on the show before. But fertilizing when you seed, there's this thing called starter fertilizer, which is effectively a higher, it's a higher makeup of phosphorus, that middle number on the bag, if you're looking at the 3 numbers of the NPK, to promote root growth, which is what, new grasses effectively obviously need to kind of mature. What are some of the things that you have done, maybe over your experiences and the many seeding projects that you've done with starter fertilizers? Have you, from your guys' experience, noticed something better than the other? One way you're doing it versus the other? Let's just talk about kind of our experiences, whether you put it down at the time of seeding, wait, don't do it at all. What do you guys do?
If I do an overseed, I like to wait a few days, just because if you put down nitrogen right away, like if you can wait 3 or 4 days to put down nitrogen, then that existing grass is not going to start growing like crazy and, grow a lot faster and start to shade out your new grass. If it's a total start over, kill off, or brand new lawn, I don't think it makes too much of a difference putting it down right away, in my opinion. It'll sit there and not really get washed through the soil unless you get a heavy rain or something in that meantime. So that's my 2 cents on it.
Vince, what do you do? Great point.
I do a little bit of mixtures. I do a mixture. So
every day.
It depends if Andrew made a good point. You don't want to be throwing down a whole bunch of fertilizer during your overseed if you have existing grass. That's why when you scalp your lawn, scalping your lawn is important, because you're bringing it down super low, and you're giving the seed to germinate, a chance to germinate and grow a little bit before the existing grass grows too tall and chokes it out or blocks the sunlight and stuff from it. So that's a great point to hold off on that. But you can, I think a lot of people put starter fertilizer down at the same time out of a convenience factor. They see that the, turf pros are doing it. It's because they're there that day. They're going to continue. They're going to start to finish that whole job, which means they need to throw down that starter fertilizer afterwards, after seeding, and then just peace out. So through the industry, I think we just adopted the same thing. Like, hey, I see it, now time to fertilize. I tend to wait, and I'll try to spray mesotrione. So the biggest thing with starter fertilizer is a lot of them have an active ingredient called mesotrione. And that is something that's going to prevent weeds from growing in your overseed. That's safe for your grass seed to germinate. Unlike pre-emergence affect all types of seeds. Mesotrione tenacity, that does not affect your cool season grass seeds. It might turn the plant a little bit white, but
bleaching.
Yeah, but for the most part, you apply at the correct rate, you're not going to see any issues with the grass. But what it will do is it will bleach your crabgrass or any weeds that might come up in the renovation. So I'll put that down through a liquid right away, just because as things are getting watered in stuff, your weed seeds are going to be germinating too. And then I'll come back once I start seeing some growth, and then I'll hit it with some liquid fertilizer. At that point, you can also just put down your normal granular, but you also have to look. There's a lot of buts. Try and make this simple. Look at what type of nitrogen you're using. With the starter fertilizers, most of them are more of a quick release. So meaning it's going to break down a lot quicker. The NPK is a lot more available at a quicker rate than some of these organic fertilizers that people put down. It takes a while for all the organisms and stuff to break down the actual fertilizer to be able to use the nutrients.
On our last episode, we talked about soil testing. Just naturally, it's a spring thing, right? If you have a soil test on your lawn and your phosphorus levels are pretty good, or high, you don't necessarily need to put down a lot of phosphorus or even any phosphorus. A lot of times, like my phosphorus is always teetering at that like good to high level. And every time, question, go ahead.
Is it available though?
Great point.
Is that phosphorus plant available?
That's a good question. I always give it some when I seed. Like a lot of times I'll do a balance like 10-10-10. A lot of times when I seed, or 12-12-12. But it's not going to give it that 26 phosphorus that a lot of these starter fertilizers have. But if you have any questions, a standard starter fertilizer that says starter fertilizer right in the bag, it's going to be 20 something nitrogen, high 20s phosphorus, and probably 10-ish or 10 to 15 potassium. Those are great. Go ahead and do that. But if maybe you have high phosphorus levels, you don't want to add that much more, you can use a nice balanced fertilizer, like a 10-10, 12-12, something like that.
Yeah.
I think the most important thing here is, so first off, Vince is a wealth of knowledge in this topic. So listen closely to what he is saying. And secondly, like pre-emergent and having a window in that, you have a finite window of when you can apply this thing. It kind of is the same when you're kind of messing around with, okay, I've seeded, now what do I apply? You either can do it for convenience right there, you can wait a little bit, but you can't wait too long, because now you got newly germinated grasses, which are very fragile. And basically anything that you apply to it could damage or kill it. But in the case of like a mesotrione, whatever.
Mesotrione.
There you go. That one. That'll just kill a plant because it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
Right. It's too new. It's
safe to use before germination, not safe after germination.
Thank you.
For a certain amount of weeks.
and from the starter fertilizer standpoint, if you wait too long and you have newly germinated grass babies, well, now you're just walking over your grass babies, which will also damage it or put risk to damaging it. Unless you're fertilizing this thing with a drone, which none of us are doing. You know what I mean? So it is kind of if you're just getting into this, you just got to keep it simple. You got to go kind of mess up, really. But like, we will always say this: whatever you decide to go throw down, read the freaking label on the back of on the bottle, the bag, whatever you're putting down, and then just have a plan in place. Don't wing it. You want to have your steps and just commit to a plan and go do it based upon what you can and cannot do in your area. It's the most important thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Do you water your newly planted grass?
No, we just throw it out there.
Well, if you don't water it, it's not going to grow, so not a problem. You know?
What's your technique on watering? Give me the elevator pitch of what's your techniques for watering.
Well, I think it kind of depends on if you have an in-ground irrigation system or not. And in the most simplest terms, regardless of what you have, the seed needs water for it to germinate into a plant. And you got to keep the seed moist. Once it's wet, you can't let it dry out, otherwise it won't necessarily germinate, or it'll be a lower chance of it germinating. If you have an in-ground irrigation system, this is really simple. I have always, and it kind of depends on your environment, kind of like what we talked about earlier with the seeding environments and what grass seed is going to be best for you. If you have shade, you probably don't need to water as much as I'm about to say. But if you have full sun and it's starting to get kind of hot, especially in the fall time, if you're like listening to this as kind of a fall episode, whatever, but it can get really hot. And sunny areas, full sun areas will obviously dry out quicker than shady areas. You might need to water more just to keep that seed wet. So then there's everything in between. Every zone, I try to maybe 5-6 minutes per zone every 4 or 5 hours. Most sprinkler systems that I have had will only allow you to do like 24 hours divided by 6. So you can't do anything basically more frequent than 4 hours, every 4 hours type of thing. And then you just set the time from there. You now that they're connected to apps, you can get a little bit more honed in on it. Vince, you were saying, in one of your fall renovations where it's bare soil, it's exposed to the sun in a full sun environment all the time. Well, okay, now you're doing it every couple hours, right?
Yeah.
Maybe not for 5-6 minutes, but just to get it like sprinkled wet a little bit. In shady areas, it's probably not going to be that much. Maybe you're looking at 3-4 times a day for half that amount of time. I think it just kind of depends, but general rule of thumb, you're going to want to get your seed wet and not let it dry out. So that's going to differ for everyone listening to this. Mm-hmm. But in most cases, you don't need to water it so much where it's drowning and flood it out. Risk of any washout. If it just rained, for example, did you get enough rain? Or do you need to hit it with more irrigation? And then if you don't have an irrigation system, that's something to plan ahead. Something to plan ahead before you even start your project. You need to set something up in your project area. And the worst case scenario, I would say maybe the worst case scenario, but I know a lot of people who have done this where maybe they do half their yard in the spring because they maybe have a dog or something like that where they got to keep off a portion of the yard, or they don't have an irrigation system and it's not within the budget to go do the whole entire thing, right? But they do one portion maybe in the spring and then the other one in the fall. Like that's totally okay. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I've done all sorts of different environments and I've seen everything under the sun in terms of like frequency and amount of water, but it really just kind of depends.
Bottom line is you have to just get out there and just put eyes on it, especially, if it's a cloudy day, it's maybe not much of a concern as much as these hot, sunny days. you just have to go out there and just keep an eye. Does it look like it dried out? Do I need to increase frequency, or do I just need to increase by a couple minutes each time I run it? I have over the years found out like 4 times a day, about 7 minutes a zone, but it all varies on your irrigation. Everybody's irrigation pumps out faster. It depends on your heads, all that stuff. Just keep an eye on it. That's all you can really do when it comes to watering. But yeah. Yes,
For sure.
sir.
So say you just put down grass seed, you got good germination, you're must try and start working, it's doing well, but you are starting to see a bunch of weeds popping up in your lawn. How and when will it be okay to treat those weeds that are coming up?
With what?
It's a great question.
Well, yeah. How can you
What are
treat
you
it?
gonna
What are
use?
the options? I mean, I think the best option, if you can, is pull it with by hand or with a hand weeding tool.
Unless it's nutsedge.
Yeah, you don't do
I
that with
pull that
nutsedge.
stuff all the time.
Don't do that. It'll spread. The tubules, or whatever it's called, stay under the soil and they'll spread. But like your dandelions, your crabgrass, that stuff can all be pulled by hand. Or at the weeding tool, like a stand-up weeding tool is your best friend to invest $30 into. I will tell you that. But when it comes to spraying chemicals on it, like your post-emergent herbicides, you're going to want to read the label of whatever you plan to spray, because some of them vary a little bit. But if you're going by general rule of thumb, you're going to wait at least 2 or 3 mows, which means you start mowing, once it hits 3 inches tall or whatever. And then you're mowing every, once a week, every 4 days, or whatever. You're going to be waiting another couple of weeks after you start mowing before it's even safe to spray. And then even then, I'm even apprehensive.
Yeah.
I try not to spray if I don't have to. Spot spray.
Spot spraying is good. There's 2 things I will be urge people to watch out for. Obviously, read the label on anything, because not all herbicides, post-emergent herbicides, are the same. You need to understand that some harm the grass, some will kill your grass, and some won't. So read the label on where it says weed or grass killer. You don't want to kill everything you just planted, right? Or your existing lawn, so just be careful with that. Otherwise, you're going to be looking like a polka dotted lawn. Ask me how I know that. The second one is that there's generally heat restrictions on that. So we now, by the time that you get your new grass babies fully established, are in the dead of summer, and it gets hot. So if you do that, it's going to have a similar effect on a weed and grass killer to a certain degree. It will damage your grass or harm it or try to. You just got to be really careful on when you apply those.
Damn,
That's
that was a
all I
hard
have.
reset, dude. Hard reset.
That was a hard reset. Yeah. Hard. Yeah. We're good. We're
Now,
back.
Andrew, you mentioned about mowing your lawn and the weeks that it takes until you can start mowing and stuff. I guess the rule of thumb is to wait till your lawn's 3 to 4 inches. But if you're going out there with the high hopes of mowing your, you're just planting a Kentucky bluegrass lawn, perennial rye, and you want to mow it at the 1 to 2 inches, you don't have to wait that long. My advice to you is get a manual reel mower if your lawn's not that big. If you do have to get on it with an actual zero turn or something, the point of this is get on and get off with absolute minimal turning around and whatnot, because it's going to be the soil's going to be loose. You're going to tear stuff up. So
Just pretend like it's a quickie in a college bathroom, in and out, quick as possible, and you're off, and you're good.
there's Chris's words of wisdom. I don't know if there's much wisdom on that. So
There's none.
Just
No,
words.
zero wisdom.
Just words.
It's a great analogy, though.
words. So get in, get out, as Chris would say, and make sure your blades make sure your mower is tuned up and ready to go. So blades are sharp, and gassed up, batteries are charged. Get on, get off, and maintain that 1/3 rule as the grass is growing. You will see. I know I do this. I teach it. But I do this every renovation. The guys can probably attest to this. You plant something, it starts germinating, and it looks super thin. And you start freaking out. And you're like, I'm going to throw down a whole nother 4 pounds per 1,000 square feet of seed. Don't. It spreads. So
Patience.
as you mow your lawn, you're going to create some tillering, and the plant is going to, each grass seed is going to grow bigger and thicker, and it's going to start to fill in naturally. Especially if it's a Kentucky bluegrass, it's going to thicken up. Feed it, good mowing, good watering, and you'll be just fine. So you don't have to go and throw down tons of seed. So that's another benefit of when you are mowing, is you're going to start to see that grass start thicken up.
Mm-hmm. It's not my hairline. It's going to get thicker.
I hear you there, dude.
I know you do.
On that topic, I have reached the point in life where I just started shaving my head, not buzzing it anymore, just shaving it.
Like shave, like all the way down, like not even a guard at all.
Yeah, it's one of those like handheld like skull things.
Yeah,
with the 5 circle thingamajigs. Never used one of those because I don't shave my face.
You're right.
I haven't touched my face with a razor in like 16 years. So I gotta. We're just there. Very aerodynamic.
It's gonna watch
that zero turn, like just feeling like a NASCAR driver going around on the zero turn this summer. It's gonna be great. Highly aerodynamic.
Anyways,
speaking of vomit,
we talked earlier about like taking it easy, getting on, getting off the lawn, right? We got to protect these baby grasses. And I do want to reiterate one thing. We're making it sound like the new grass is untouchable, right? Like you don't want to touch it. You don't want it. It's more resilient than you think. I used to not let my dogs on these areas. Now I just let them on. Guys, it's going to be okay. I'm trying to minimize it, but like it's a lawn at the end of the day. Like if you have to go on
it's not just a lawn, Andrew.
It's just
for 99.99% of the people in this world, Vince. I know for us it very much is, and especially you, but it's going to be okay. You're going to be all right. But yeah, try to take it easy on it. Do what you can to minimize traffic. Use the lighter mower, use a hand mower versus a zero turn, or a manual reel mower versus your gas powered reel mower, all that stuff. But it's more resilient than you think.
True that. Now. It's grass, man.
Yeah, just grass.
It's grass.
As our wives will say.
Should we pop open the mailbag?
We should.
Is that something that we want to do right now?
I think we should hit that real quick.
Yeah, let me find the button. All right, here we go.
It's time for the Motown mailbag.
Join us as we reach deep into the mailbag and answer your questions. If you would like to have a question answered on the Lawn Feed podcast, head to thelawnfeed.com and submit a question.
Who wants to read these bad boys? We got 3 of them. Short and sweet tonight.
Mark M. from Norwell, Mass. I have no idea what collegiate hockey team you follow in your area or neck of the woods. I think all of them are in it.
He's just south of Boston, it says later in here. So
just south of Boston.
Could be any hockey
fun fact,
team,
I was born in Boston.
Makes
Minnesota
sense.
Golden Gophers play UMass, the Minutemen, in the quarterfinal. At the time of this recording tomorrow night. So this is either going to turn out really well for Mark or really bad for Mark, depending on who he cheers for. Okay. Subject: Spring Blitz with a Z. I suppose that's how you spell blitz, isn't it? Okay, so I stumbled onto this podcast and binged it over the last couple weeks. But more information went into my head as other info was pushed out. I can't. This is just how the night's going, guys.
Oh my god.
I can't. It's just there. He found us and binged it over the last couple weeks, but as more information went into my head, others info was pushed out. Classic. Clearly, we're on the same wavelength, Mark. I can totally understand.
Words have been pushed out of Chris's head. So
yeah, there's a
spelling, all that.
Went along with all of the hair. Want to level my lawn. What time of year? Now, ? Do I use sand? Do I not use sand? Want to do a spring overseed, but nervous to dethatch, etc., etc. Also, confused on what seed to use. Gosh, if only we had a free guide to offer to answer that question.
We're not doing
I live in South Boston. No, yeah. I live in South Boston. Also have some Labradors and a Newfoundland. Damn. Who want to chill out there all day.
It's like a
really
Chihuahua
itchy
size.
to get going. Oh, I also have irrigation too. It's actually like super helpful. He's provided literally all the information we need to know.
Yeah.
I
I think this episode has already supplied him with a lot of good knowledge towards this.
Mark is not listening anymore.
You
You
don't
have a
think so?
0% chance. He's tuned out.
I don't know. He's loves the podcast. He stumbled
Yeah,
upon us and he's been binging. So I mean, he submitted a question. He's probably
The
looking
fact
for an
that he
answer.
spells Blitz with a Z, he's still listening.
Yeah, he gets it.
He blitz with this.
So
gets
to
it.
answer your questions, you want to level your lawn. You don't know what type of medium you want to use. I think most people level their lawns in the spring. Right as you pass out of the frost, you have active growth. You're kind of in that spring flush area. That's a great time to be doing all the things to level your lawn. Depends what type of grass type you have. If you have a Kentucky bluegrass, you probably have Kentucky bluegrass up there. If it's a tall fescue, just proceed with caution. You can't smother tall fescue with sand. You have to do it gradually. But if it's a perennial rye or a Kentucky bluegrass, you can use sand 100%. You can mix some compost with the sand, or I'd advise not to do screen topsoil just because you're bringing in weed seeds. And actually, some of the compost says it's heated up and there's no weed seeds and stuff. A lot of people are bringing triv into their lawns from compost. Something I've noticed in the past year or so. So if you want to just level your lawn, go ahead and use some seed or some seed.
Use some
Use
seed.
some sand,
See how that
masonry
goes.
sand, kiln dried sand, something along those lines. Depending on how bumpy it is, you can go anywhere from a really light leveling from half a ton per 1,000 square foot up to 1.25 ton per 1,000 square feet of sand and level it out. And right after you're done leveling it, go ahead and hit it with some fertilizer and let it grow out. I do have a bunch of videos on that. I think we all have separate videos on that too. So there's a lot of information out there, but I think you'd be fine. You can seed on after doing your your leveling. Some people will seed beforehand as well.
Depends on how much you need to put down to get level.
Just know that when you seed into sand, you're going to be watering a lot more. So be prepared for that.
All right.
Someone else take the next question, because God forbid I.
Yeah, no, I'll read it. Ted L. from Pennsylvania. Spring prep. Hey, from Pennsylvania. I overseeded part of my yard with perennial ryegrass last fall. Unfortunately, the same part of grass has dumpsters and is getting beat up with foot traffic the past month. I was planning to do a spring seed and skip pre-emergent this year, but they are putting down sod. Do I hold off on pre-emergent until the sod is down? Never dealt with sod, so any other pointers would be helpful. Will probably plan to overseed it in the fall again to help blend it in. I'm assuming this is like, I don't know, I'm getting vibes that this is not his property or not a public property or like something he manages or something, because they're sodding in.
Yeah.
What? It sounds like it's not his control fully. So
yeah, so a couple of things on sod. And Vince, you live in Pennsylvania, so correct me where I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. A lot of sod production, most of the sod production, specifically around us, and assuming over there as well, and especially in northern states, is Kentucky bluegrass. And that's, I think, primarily the only difference here is really how you would do from seed to sod. You still need to obviously water it. You still need to do all of the same things that you would do with seed. It's just it's already there kind of thing. It's an instant lawn for the most part. It's one of the advantages of it. It's more expensive and this, that, and the other thing. Pre-emergent obviously will have the same it'll do the same things with sod as it does with seed, and obviously it's already germinated, so you got to do it's already there. But the big thing is its impact on the roots, right? All of that said, Kentucky bluegrass, perennial or ryegrass, they go very well together. So if your plan for the fall is to, kind of blend it in and do all of those things, I think that is a fine plan. But yeah, listen to every kind of thing that we did in this episode. I think a basic overseed is all you would need to do. Kentucky bluegrass, the other thing on that, if it is Kentucky bluegrass, I would probably confirm that, but it probably is. That takes a couple years to fully establish and like really bring out its true colors.
To be clear, Chris was saying don't use pre-emergent.
Yeah, don't use pre-emergent. Don't do that.
And we have tall fescue sod out here as well.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. That's cool.
Yeah. So
That'd be a good option.
I'd just be concerned.
Like a lot of it?
Oh, yeah.
Really? Cool.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Yeah, there's a lot of fescue fields out, and they keep it mowed at like 2-inch short. Yeah,
Wow,
love it.
That's sweet.
Yeah.
It's like almost all of the sod production on here is Kentucky bluegrass.
But I'd just be concerned that they're putting down sod in these random spots, because now you're just going to have some random grass.
Yeah, that's not going to mix
in the mix of your perennial rye. So no matter how many times you overseed it, you're always going to have this spot of Kentucky bluegrass in there. So if you can seed it, but I understand if they're contractors and they're just putting in some sod to make it, fixed up real quick, then just, tell them to do the whole yard.
Right. Sounds like it's a high traffic area anyways. It might be something you deal with on a regular basis. So
Connor D from the Chicago suburbs. God, I could crush some Portillos right now. That sounds so good. South facing lawn, if you know, you know. South facing lawn, cool season grass. Hi guys, my front lawn faces directly south and gets hit with direct sun all year long. My last season, the drought knocked out a good portion of my lawn. My question is, besides watering, would adding soil amendments, i.e. compost, or biostimulants, help with the water retention and root growth? If so, do you have any suggestions on what to apply? Connor D from Chicago Burbs.
I don't think any soil amendments like compost is really going to do much for the watering issue. I would be concerned with compaction. You can use some biostimulants. Obviously, it's going to help with root growth to an extent. Sea kelp's great. There's some other agents out there. I forget what the wetting agent's called. There's some wetting agents you can get less go. Hydrotain. They claim to retain water and stuff. They work a good bit. Yeah. So yeah, you could put down some of that stuff before the drought happens. That's the key there. And you got to water and follow the instructions on the label for the what is the term for that?
Term for what?
The hydrotain.
Moisture management.
Yeah, I'm trying to. There's a technical term, and it's blanking on me right now. It's late, so
it's a wetting agent kind of feeling.
Wetting agent. That's it.
Oh, that's what you're looking for. Oh,
that's what I was looking for.
I got it.
Yeah,
I was about to say you like said that. Like
it escaped me. So, you can use some wetting agents, but the biggest thing is just get a good type of grass seed in there.
That's what I was just going to say. Like he's talking about how to fix the soil but what kind of grass do you have? If you have a heavy Kentucky bluegrass, it's not going to do well with that. Maybe like a heavy overseed with a tall fescue would blend in really nice with that, and that is going to be so much more drought tolerant than that. So I guess really take a look at what kind of grass seed do you have, and if you don't know what kind of grass you have in there, it's probably a mixture of cool season grasses, but probably some Kentucky bluegrass in there somewhere. That's not going to do well with that direct sunlight and heat. So tall fescue.
My brother-in-law also lives in Chicago. I can't remember what orientation. They just moved into a new house. Kentucky bluegrass backyard. Chicago got crushed. I mean, with drought, high heat, all of those different things. His lawn from the spring to July.
Yeah, brown.
I mean, it was crispier than how I like my bacon.
Mm-hmm.
It was gross. It wants to go dormant. We've said that before. I mean, like Andrew said, just try to get that grass type that can handle the drought. Not all grass is going to handle an extreme drought, but some can handle it better than others. Tall fescue being one of them, fine fescue being the other. So,
and if it goes
you're not
dormant,
doing a fine fescue lawn though.
If it goes dormant, let it go dormant. Water it occasionally, so it's not
right.
Like keep it alive, but don't be fertilizing it and all that stuff. But yeah.
Well, this was good. This is a good episode. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed learning all about the seeding process. Page back through some of our previous episodes, we dive into some of these topics we talked about briefly in here in a more in-depth manner. And before you guys get gone too quick, make sure you go head on over to lawnfeed.com. There are a bunch of free lawn guides there.
Wait, we have free guides?
Since when? We get those up already? That was quick.
Lawnfeed.com. Yeah.
Nice work.
Right there. So
shoot.
We just finished those while recording this episode.
That's
so
why Chris
you
was
are
so
good to
zoned
go
out.
now.
Yeah.
But if you already knew that, go head on over and check out some of our lawn swag. We've been getting some sales coming in through. We don't make much of anything on those, but we just like to see you guys repping some of our swag, whether it's it's an Opitz Mow Time shirt or a Rooted or a Big Grass Guy t-shirt. It's always awesome to see that. And to help that out a little bit, use Brad15 and you'll get 15% off of your t-shirt order or whatever you decide to buy. Go do it. Show some support.
Do the thing. I don't know what Andrew's trying to show us right now.
Saturday morning mow.
Dude, that's like a vintage OG shirt.
That is
a good one.
Dang.
Well, on behalf of the entire Lawn Feed crew, thanks for joining us. Stay safe out there and have a good one.
See y'all.
Bye-bye.